Okay, so you're a trader and you're trying to take your trading level to the next step, and you're starting to look at things like regulatory umbrellas. So what is that? Today we are with Eldon Kerr, the Director of Starmark Investment Management, and he is a regulatory umbrella in the city. Hello, Eldon.
Hi, Arthur.
Yeah, and so basically, the idea behind this is to ask Eldon some questions and to figure out what actually is a regulatory umbrella.
Well, a regulatory umbrella is for an individual or a company that wants to carry out regulated activities, but doesn't want to go through the whole process of becoming self-regulated.
Right.
So it's a long process, 6 months to a year, and it can be costly. So the regulatory umbrella provides an alternative solution and enables the company to carry out activities that require regulatory oversight.
Right.
So those could be things, advising, arranging, marketing, introducing, and managing investments as well. So all the sorts of things that a company that wants to trade third-party funds on a discretionary basis would require.
Okay, Eldon, so say if I was a trader in London wishing to expand, why should I come to you? What is the reason to come to a regulatory umbrella?
Well, any time you're carrying out an activity that requires regulatory oversight, you need to have it. So, for example, if you are going to be approaching potential clients to invest in your product, then you're marketing, and you might help them fill out forms. You're arranging, you're advising them. So all these activities require regulation.
Okay.
And you either have to get it yourself or you have to look for a regulatory umbrella
to take all
to
that
provide
pain
it to you.
Yeah, to take
That's
all that
right.
pain away. All right.
That's right.
That's great.
With the appropriate permissions.
Yeah.
And you can always see the permissions on the FCA register. So when you're looking at different principals, you look them up on the FCA register and you can see what kind of permissions they have and whether they're appropriate for what you want to do.
Right. Okay. I understand. And there seems to be two parts of the regulatory umbrella regime, and the first one I'm looking at here is the idea of an appointed representative. So what actually is an appointed representative?
Yeah, so we break it down into two parts, the appointed representative and investment management services. So an appointed representative, they can come in all shapes and sizes because it's a varied activity that they could be carrying out. So an AR would be able to advise, arrange, market, introduce, but not manage investments. So it's a part of the investment management services, but it's separate.
Right.
And the way it works is there's a relationship. There's Starmark Investment Management Limited, which is the regulated entity, and it's called the principal. It's referred to as principal.
Okay.
And the principal can have appointed representatives attached to it. Those appointed representatives don't have a direct relationship with the FCA, but they do have to comply with the regulatory requirements. And the AR is basically an agent of the principal.
Okay, Eldon, so what are investment management services?
So investment management services, as I mentioned, the appointed representative is not able to manage investments. In order to manage investments, you have to be directly regulated and authorized by the FCA. So Starmark, in any sort of relationship, Starmark Investment Management Limited needs to be the investment manager. So to achieve that, we put in place a few contracts. We have a hosting agreement, and we have an appointed representative agreement. The appointed representative is identified as a trading advisor And in that role, the trading advisor is able to elect individuals to become CF30s, which is the client function,
Right.
under the investment manager, Starmark Investment Management Limited.
Right.
The AR has its directors listed as CF1 individually, and its traders as CF30 or its marketers as CF30. The CF30 is the client function.
Right, I'm with you.
So the investment management service is really just taking the AR and adding that next element, which is managing investments.
Right. Yeah, it seems very, very complicated, and it seems that you're taking all the complication away from people who want to come on board and do this style of trading. So can I ask, what is the typical client for Starmark? Who do you look for a typical onboarding?
Well, the pure appointed representatives can come in all shapes and sizes, doing all sorts of different things. But I guess a typical client, as an example, would be a company that wants to manage investments for a fund on a discretionary basis. Mm-hmm. So the constraints we have at Starmark is that our permissions do not extend to the retail sector.
Right.
So we can only deal with professional clients, and the companies are professional. Individuals are a little bit more complicated, and we have a client classification letter that they need to sign. There's a couple of tests, qualitative and quantitative. Mm-hmm. We need to, on the qualitative side, we need to assess their expertise, experience, and knowledge of what they're going to be investing in. And on the quantitative side, you're looking at transactions that have been carried out in significant size over a certain frequency. You're looking at their portfolio, looking for more than 500,000 euro portfolio, which includes cash deposits and financial instruments, and you're looking at their experience in the financial sector as a professional.
Right.
And the letter really outlines the consequences of being an elected professional, electing up to a professional status, and what you lose in terms of compensation and protection.
Right.
As opposed to the retail sector. So the typical client, that's a long-winded way of saying, is we need to be looking at professionals investing.
Right, I've got
and it might be a fund, for example, let's say based in Cayman, so it would be an AIF, an alternative investment fund, with an administrator.
Right.
We put in place an investment management agreement between Starmark Investment Management Limited and the fund. We would have that agreement between SIML, I'll call it, and the AR. Mm-hmm. And the AR would be the trading advisor, and would also, as an AR, be able to market the fund in the UK.
Right.
And the only other complication, once they start trading, I mean, assuming that they're trading exchange-traded products, is transaction reporting.
Right.
And transaction reporting, you have two regimes you need to report into, EMIR and MiFID.
Okay.
So EMIR is all the derivatives that get reported through an ARM, which is an approved reporting mechanism, to a trade repository. And then the MiFID 2 transaction reporting requirements that came out in January of this year. It's all European listings need to be reported to the National Competent Authority organization, which in our case is the FCA.
Okay. And it just leads me to one more question before we finish for today. In general, in the industry, how do fees work, and how do your fees work in relationship to the industry norm?
I think probably most principals will be charging a percentage. It might be a percentage of management fee or performance fee. Mm-hmm. We at Starmark go with a flat fee. It's fairly consistent. I mean, each situation has to be a little bit bespoke, but it's a flat fee for the appointed representative status and the investment management service. And then we look at a cost per individual, which gets registered with the FCA as well. Fantastic. And it takes about a month from start to finish, if all the information is provided to us in a timely fashion.
That's fine. Okay. Okay, well, thank you, Eldon. We've been talking today to Eldon Kerr, the Director of Starmark Investment Management, and about what's involved in the regulatory umbrella framework for UK corporate traders. Okay, Eldon, thank you very much for today, and all the
Thank you,
best
Arthur.
with your company.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.